everybody, and welcome to What's Up, Cuz? I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my, I can't say that just yet. So usually I can say along with my cousin, the coach himself, Lancey Irvin, but he's not here right now. He is having trouble logging on, allegedly. I told him to pay his bill, y'all. I don't know, he being cheap or whatever, but I told him to pay his bill. Whatever the reason is, Lance is not here right now. He is trying to get himself logged on, which means this could take a while because his daughter is not at home. And we know all the young people know all the technology stuff. So Lance will get here when he gets here. He's trying to log on through the iPhone, and I don't know what the man is doing, folks. So for right now, you will have me here on What's Up, Cuz, and I'd like to welcome you to our show here that we do every Monday night from the Chicago metropolitan area. And if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, that's Sports Zone Chicago's YouTube channel, we appreciate you watching us on YouTube. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and you'll be able to watch all the shows we have here on the Sports Zone Chicago network. Also, if you're checking us out on Facebook Live, we appreciate you watching us there. Go ahead and send us your questions or comments throughout tonight's show, and we'll try to get to you there as well. Also, the Sports Zone Chicago app. You got to download the app, folks. If you haven't downloaded the app already, what are you waiting for? Download that Sports Zone Chicago app. It'll give you access not just to the What's Up Cuz show, but all the shows we have here on Sports Zone Chicago. You want to know where you can get that app? Quite easy. You can get it from the iTunes store. You can get it from the Amazon store. You can get it from the Google store. Go ahead. Any of those places you want to get that app, go ahead and get that app. It'll give you access to all of our shows that we have here on Sports Zone Chicago. And tonight, on tonight's show, we got a good show for you. We got two guests from two different backgrounds, and we're going to talk first, coming up at 6:30. We're going to talk some NCAA. The NCAA has got all sorts of stuff going on now with conference realignments, everything going on in the Power Five. What is this going to mean for a lot of the smaller conferences once these schools start changing conferences? Probably for the next 2 years or so, this is going to be just all over the place. So we have someone who is going to come on the show to talk to us about that. And she knows because she is the associate commissioner of the WAC conference. So joining us at 6:30, it's going to be Hope Schuler. Hope Schuler is going to join us at 6:30. She is an associate commissioner with the Western Athletic Conference. So she's going to talk about what her conference is doing and some of the moves that they're making to prepare for what could be just chaos going on all over the place in college sports. So she's going to come on. And then it is that time of year. It's almost fall. So you know what that means. It's getting ready to be football season, NFL football, which means it's getting ready to be time for fantasy football. Yes, when we all get to be a general manager, and joining us to talk about that will be the Chicago Tribune's own Phil Thompson. He covers fantasy football for the Chicago Tribune. He's also the Chicago Blackhawks beat writer. So we're going to talk to Phil coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, and we're going to talk about fantasy football. We're going to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks and everything they've got going on, but we're really going to focus on this fantasy football because I know a lot of you are out there trying to get your teams together, trying to figure out who you're going to draft, who should you play, who should you sit, and how do you make all those determinations. So maybe Phil can help you out. Maybe he'll give you a couple of tips on something that you can look forward to and use in your fantasy league draft. So he is coming up at 7 o'clock to talk fantasy football and Blackhawks. So that's what we got for you tonight coming up on What's Up, Cuz. And hey, I can't start the show without introducing our super producer, the man behind the scenes who makes everything happen, my guy, Ivan Vargas. Ivan, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
What's up, Jason? Lance is just like, on a delay. Like, he's late to the show. You know what I mean? I know he's going to talk crap about my Cubs. So I'm just prepared. I got a whole bunch for Lance when he comes on the show right now. I got a whole bunch for him. But no, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I think my cousin didn't pay his bill. He talked about Vimo me some money or something. I don't know what he's up to, but he'll get it when he gets here, I guess. But hey, man, you had a great experience over the weekend, and it actually started last week. You and Sean and a couple other people, you all went to Lake Forest to the Chicago Bears training camp site. And then you went to the preseason game, which took place on Saturday at Soldier Field against the Dolphins. Tell me a little bit about Lake Forest and the training camp. I've actually never been to a Bears training camp. So what was the experience like?
Well, for me, it was my first time as well, up at Hallis Hall. So, you know, and all the Bourbonnais people, it's kind of hard to relate with them. You know what I'm saying? Because all I hear is this is so different in Bourbonnais. So I'm like, it's hard to relate. But for me, being my first time at Hallis Hall, my first training camp, I thought it was pretty cool. They had enough room for people. Like, there was enough room to have enough fans. My issue was, like, first of all, the concessions were absolute garbage. You know what
Really?
I mean? And I understand it's only a 3-hour practice, but you're in the sweltering heat. You know what I mean? Like, you're standing out there, you're next to other bodies. You want something to refresh you. Something, you know, they got Gatorades, a couple chips, some like cold bagels with cream cheese. Like, that's it. Like, that's all that was offered. But I mean, other than that, like, I mean, I had a pretty good time. Like, it wasn't bad. I felt like they have a lot of room to where they can expand and add more fans and such. But you know, overall, fix the concession stands. You know what I'm saying? Fix the concession stands. Start adding a little more for the kids. Start adding a little more for the fans. I just felt like it wasn't bad. It was okay. It was an okay.
So do you think some of that is related to the pandemic that we're in, and perhaps they didn't want to open up as much of that? Because I know they have a restriction on the amount of fans that they're allowing in every training camp session. It's not like it used to be. They've really cut down. What's the number? Like 250 people they're allowing or something?
Something like there's only a couple hundred. Like I thought it was only a few hundred. I'll have to double check. But I mean, it was pretty much wear the mask on the bus, on the transportation bus from the Hawthorne Mall to Hallis Hall, and then that was pretty much it. You're on the facility, you're outside, you're sitting next to whoever you want. Nobody's was really wearing a mask, so it was like, if you want to wear a mask, feel comfortable, wear a mask. If not, it was pretty much everybody not wearing a mask. So
really,
yeah, so, that's how I thought.
So you can't actually drive up there. You have to get a charter bus or something?
Yeah, they have a bunch of charter buses waiting for you at Hawthorne Mall. Like, you go ahead, park wherever you want, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Like, use the parking lot. You'll hop on the coach buses, and when they're ready, they'll take you over to Hallis Hall. It's about like a 2.5 mile drive away. I made the mistake of going up because I was like, man, where are we gonna park? So I pulled up. I was just like, what's going on? They're like, who you with? I was like, who you with?
Who are you, Bernie Mac? Who you with?
I was like, Bernie. I'm with Bernie. No, but yeah, it was an eye-opening experience. I thought the parking was right there. That was the only thing that I felt weird. I don't mind the charter buses are using the Hawthorne Mall.
Right.
My thing is that it's at the end of a business, like you know, like it's like a whole business area. Like you got like some type of Initech company here, or some type of, and you know what I mean. It's in the back of like an industrial area, but there's just so much more room. I felt like where, like, why don't y'all got money? Knock this shit down. Like this is just like, this is shrubbery. Like there's a mound of shrubbery over there. Like, why isn't that being utilized? And I mean, you could put more fields, more accommodations. Like I said, it was a good experience. I just felt like the Bears have, like, man, why aren't you doing more?
So when you say they have fields, how many fields do they currently have that they use for the practice facility?
So they have the one by the building, which when we were walking up, that was pretty much just used for special teams guys. Mm-hmm. And then they have two more. As you keep walking past the Walter Payton Center, they have two more in the back by the train tracks. But I was like, man, this is kind of like you built it in a way. It's just like I just feel like there should be more here.
Okay.
For who you are as a team, like, you should have more here, especially if you're going to be inviting more and more fans up to Hallis Hall for training camp. Forever.
And I know they have an indoor facility as well that they use as a practice facility as well, right?
Oh yeah, the Walter Payton Center was beautiful. Like, it was really, like, I mean, you walk in there, there was a bunch of kids. They had like a little kid area, but I mean, like I said, for me, it's you run a couple times, you catch a ball, and then it's just like, all right, like, that's kind of boring. I don't know. I'm not a kid anymore, obviously, but I'm like, this is kind of like blah. You know, you get kind of like the bare minimum, but the Walter Payton Center itself it's just a gorgeous area, gorgeous facility. They have his jersey and obviously a bunch of memorabilia up on his upper level.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have his pictures, just images everywhere. It's just a beautiful facility, the indoor facility.
Okay, I'm going to check it out. That is one thing I definitely should do. I'm going to check out the Walter Payton Center. I'm gonna go up there and see what everything is about because I know a lot of people have kind of talked about it. So we'll kind of see what it's like. When I get up there, I'm definitely going to do it. Training camp breaks what in like another week or two, maybe a week.
Yeah, about a week or two. Oh well, they got only 3 weeks of preseason. So
That's right. That's right. That's
so you'll
right.
be going right into it. Like this is pretty much the dress rehearsal, I would say, uh, against the Buffalo Bills. Like you're pretty much looking at this as being one of the main focus points on who you're going to keep on your team. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it should be fun. Like I said, the Bears. It was fun on Saturday when Justin got on the field. It was like electric. Even with the stadium half full, but it was still electrifying seeing him walk on the field and then just hit. You felt it, Jason. You know what I mean? It just kind of rose above the energy. It just rose above everything else. The moment everybody just stopped. We're actually in the middle of a conversation where somebody had pointed it out, and then everybody else stopped. It felt like everybody stopped, and we're sitting there watching Justin walk on the field. It was fun, man. It gave you chills. It gave you chills because then he went on after the fumble and
Mm-hmm.
had the performance he did, and just the way he speaks. And I had mentioned this, when they were doing rookie mini camp, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself, the way he handles he handles being the leader of the team with his teammate, the way he handles being a leader. Like you can't ask for much more from a rookie coming out with a
Mm-hmm.
couple months being in your organization. The guy's done more than I could say.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean everybody's excited. I asked you earlier on Sean and Maya, how many Andy Dalton jerseys did you see at the game? So tell everybody how many Andy Dalton jerseys you saw at the game.
There were three. There were three Andy Dalton jerseys. All of them were Bengals jerseys. There wasn't one Cowboy. All of them were Bengals. So they're true fans. Like they're true Andy Dalton fans.
That's
Andy
his
Dalton.
family.
Not only is it Andy Dalton, it's the Bengals. So,
Right.
so they got to be some true fans wearing that one to Soldier Field. But other than that, it was all Justin. There was Justins everywhere. Justin, Roquan, Justin, Akeem, Khalil,
Wow.
Justin. It was everywhere.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So we're going to talk a little bit later on about Justin Fields and what the Bears should consider doing with him. But I just think it's going to be hilarious that, I think even Andy Dalton's family is wearing Justin Fields jerseys and nobody knows about
Well,
it.
Jason, I don't know if you paid attention to some of the post game interviews, but I was watching. I was watching the players today. They had Khalil Herbert, Sam Mustipher, Cody Whitehair. Majority of the questions were about Justin Fields. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I was like, don't you want to ask Cody something about Cody? How's your day going, Cody? Like, ask him something. But I get it. It's the hype is real. I mean, like, I believe in him. The hype is real. It's good for the city.
Hey, he's the new shiny toy in Chicago. So, we haven't had really good shiny toys here. Booker McFarland was angry that Fields said the game wasn't fast. Well, Booker has rights his opinion, but I mean, the young man is going to speak his mind. That's one thing I like about him. He's definitely going to speak his mind, and we're all going to be judging him. I said never in the history of the NFL is one preseason game going to be judged so harshly by so many people. And I just think it's because we're all so excited. We all see the potential and the promise of this guy. So, anything he does, I mean, think about what we've talked about. We talked about just as he was standing in the tunnel waiting to be introduced. That's how much attention is on this young man. And, he's got the charter franchise that he's a quarterback of. So, everybody has got eyes on him and seeing what he does. So, for better or for worse. So, it's going to be fun to get a chance to watch him. So we'll see what happens going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick commercial break here a little bit earlier in the show. And hopefully Lance will be joining me. Hopefully he can figure out what's going on with his computer. I told him he needed to pay his bill, y'all. I think that's what it's all about. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back. You are watching What's Up, Cuz.
See me. See me. See me. See my dark skin and my kinky hair.
See me. Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my tan skin and my curly hair.
See me.
Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my face, wet with tears from years of oppression.
See my hands, weathered and worn from decades of pulling myself up through your society.
See my feet split from centuries of walking your delicate line.
See me.
See me.
See me.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
Let's get back to normal. How do we do that? Wear masks, wash your hands, stand 6 feet apart, get tested, and most important, roll up your sleeve and get the shot.
Get the shot. Get the shot.
Get the shot.
I got the shot. I got the shot.
I got the shot.
I got the shot.
I got the shot.
I got the shot, and so should you.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans, and soon they will be available to everyone.
This vaccine means hope. It will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
I want to go back to work and I want to be able to move around.
To visit with Michelle's mom, to hug her and see her on her birthday.
You know, I'm really looking forward to is going to opening day in Texas Ranger Stadium with a full stadium.
We've lost enough people and we've suffered enough damage.
In order to get rid of this pandemic, it's important for our fellow citizens to get vaccinated.
I'm getting vaccinated because we want this pandemic to end as soon as possible.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
So roll up your sleeve and do your part.
This is our shot.
Now it's up to you.
Justin, what was it like in your first game adjusting to that NFL speed as opposed to college?
It was actually kind of slow to me, to be honest. I think, I was expecting it to be a little bit faster, but, practicing, game speed, going at it with my teammates every day. And, of course, we have a great defense. So me going against them every day, it definitely slowed the game up a little bit for me. So, I felt comfortable out there, and I just, of course, I have room to grow. So I'm just going to try to get better each and every day.
Welcome back, everybody, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer. That clip you just saw was the press conference after the Bears preseason game, after they defeated the Dolphins on Saturday. That is our quarterback in waiting, Justin Fields. Like I said, I thought the young man did a great job in handling himself in front of the media. He answered everything pretty directly. He was very straightforward and honest about what was going on. And, there's hope for Chicago Bears fans here in the future. Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback of this team. It's just a matter of when. And that's a big hot topic right now in Chicago. A lot of people are saying, hey, let's start him game one. Other people are saying, no, let's let him wait a full season and sit and learn. Other people are saying, hey, let's start him midway through the season. So you've got a lot of different kind of reactions on this thing. I'm kind of on the fence with this. I think the smart thing is probably to start the young man after like maybe game 2 or 3. However, he's the brand new shiny toy, Ivan. It's like you got that Christmas present that your parents bought and then trying to hide it in the closet on the shelf, and it's there. So you're sneaking in the closet, you're picking up the box, you're trying to rattle it and see what's going on. Look at this guy. I mean, look at this. He's pointing people. No, man, go there. No, man, go there. I mean, he looked like a real NFL quarterback. I mean, just look at the plays this kid is making. And, here's a big throw right here. That's a 50-50 ball that he throws up there. The receiver comes down with it. I mean, I just think, for me, his teammates, just the way they were acting to see him when he's out there on the field. Now he's using his legs. Oh, let me create some space. There we go. You're trying to think, okay, I got to stop this guy from running. And then, the guy comes off the receiver and he makes another completion. I mean, this is just stuff we have not seen with the Bears in a while. So it's really hard for us to say, no, the prudent thing is to relax and, let's let him feel his way out. And I'm like, I got a dude out here doing plays like this. Right. I mean, he's using his feet, he's making moves. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we need to start this dude. So I just question how much patience the Bears coaching staff. And don't get me wrong, I think they're going to get pressure from management. I think they're going to get pressure from marketing and public relations. I think they're going to get pressure to get this guy on the field as soon as possible. I think that's probably the way they'll phrase it. They'll say, hey, as soon as we can get this guy on the field, let's go ahead and do it, even if we don't think he's 100% ready. Because you've got a fan base now that's invigorated, a fan base now that's really excited and has something to look forward to. And I just don't think Chicago fans are going to be patient.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to be patient at all. The thing is that, with Justin, he's not the type of dude that's going to go and throw his coach under the bus. He's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He seems like a young man that's – I mean, he obviously has the attention of the veterans on the team. Like, those guys want – a majority of those guys probably want him to be the starting quarterback. So, I mean, to have the maturity that he has at such a young age and to be – so far, so good with the intangibles. I mean, look, I'm excited. I don't know what week he's going to start. Kind of lost my volume there.
That's all right.
Look, I don't know what week he's going to start, but, if sooner rather than later, that's cool. But if it's later, I'm comfortable with that too.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I'm just really excited. I don't think I can be patient. I've watched too much bad Bears football and too much bad quarterbacking for me to keep being patient. And, people say, oh, he can get hurt. It's football. Everybody's going to eventually get hurt. So, just put him out there for a little bit, see what he does. I don't know if you can do the whole split time between him and Andy Dalton. I don't think that ever really works. That's like trying to close by committee in baseball. It rarely works. They could try that and have a starting quarterback 1 and a 1A, but I don't think that's going to work. But we'll see.
Hey, Jason, speaking of sooner rather than later.
Oh, what do you know? Oh, my God. I can't believe my co-host. He's only 24 minutes and 35 seconds late. But I think I see my cousin back there in the green room. He's trying to get his lighting correct. Is that the coach, Lancey Irvin? Is that him?
Sometimes it's better late than never. I'm going to try because I'm sitting here with 3 computers. Neither whatever the hell you want to say is working right. I'm using my phone, but the show never ends. The show never stops.
I told you to pay your bill. I told you they weren't going to take that WIC card when you needed to pay your internet bill.
You know what? I paid the bill yesterday because your cousin Paula got a debit card jacked, so the Wi-Fi was not on yesterday. So we have it back on. I'm sitting there in front of a desktop, 3 laptops, and no cameras working. So I don't know what it is, but I'm here, so I'm gonna keep fooling around with one of these, and maybe one of these will work. I don't know, but I'm good though, and I'm ready. Were you talking about Justin Fields and the Bears?
I was, and you and I are going to talk a lot about Justin Fields and the Bears in the latter half of this show. But you came on just in time because our first guest is also here. How about that?
And you know what? She's in the backstage laughing. I know she's laughing at me. I know she's laughing, Jay. But that's okay though. That's okay. I'm gonna give her a hard time since I'm late. I'm going to give her a hard time.
All right, well, how about we bring her on? Does that sound good to you?
Please bring her on. Please bring her on.
All right, sounds good. So our first guest tonight, there she is, Hope Schuler. She's the Associate Commissioner of the Western Athletic Conference, and she joins us from out there in Washington. Am I correct?
Denver.
Denver.
In Denver, Colorado. It's all out that way. She's in Colorado. Hope, thank you so much for joining us today here on What's Up, Cuz. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
You know what, Hope? This one I normally start clapping, so let me start clapping.
He's got to put the phone down.
He's too much.
Well, Hope, thank you so much for joining us. And, there's so much we want to kind of talk to you about. And we're always happy when we can get an administrator, a college football, just a college conference administrator to come on our show and talk to us because, there's so much that goes on with the NCAA. It's such a large organization. And then you have the conferences themselves, and the conferences are responsible for the universities in their particular conference. You all are a voice for them. And then there's the NCAA as a whole. Just first of all, tell me just a little bit about what you do over there at the WAC.
So I oversee all of our championships. So any WAC athlete, we have 19 championships. Actually, well, we award champions in 20 sports, but we have 19 championships. And so I oversee all of those, the planning, preparation. Actually, when awarding the sites, schools put in bids to host championships. And then, so it's myself and then one other person in championships and then really a third person that helps because there's a lot of times when they're the same weekend, we have multiple championships same time. And so I can't be in multiple places at once. So, just assigning what sports, what championships I'm going to go to, what championships my assistant's going to go to, and then the other person on our staff. And then, really deciding staffing wise, how many people we need there. If it's a neutral site, we obviously bring more staff than if it's at a school because the school will help. Well, in theory, they should help. Some are better than others. So that's like overall my main role. But then I'm also the senior women administrator, so I'm the highest ranking female at the conference office, and then I serve as the sports supervisor for a couple different sports. So women's basketball, volleyball, softball. And then I'm involved in a whole, for those sports, I basically deal with everything that comes up with those sports, which in the past year has probably quadrupled. Dealing with if there's an outbreak, having to reschedule or trying to reschedule. But then another big chunk of my job since the pandemic is I'm the liaison from our staff to the sport management committee, which that committee deals with basically anything that comes up, all the rules and regulations that we have pertaining to all sports outside of basketball and football. Those it's not that I'm not involved in those, it's just those aren't handled by that committee. So, during COVID, when people were wondering, what are you going to do? How are we going to handle if a team doesn't play? Like if they can't play because they don't have enough players, is that going to be a forfeit? Is it going to be a no contest? Trying to figure out what was the best solution there, which what we came up with wasn't necessarily the best solution. They did a weighted winning. You multiply your winning percentage by your games played percentage, trying to make it so that there wasn't gamesmanship, but it's college sports. So there's going to be gamesmanship no matter what. So just dealing with things like that, and then protocols like how close to the court fans could be, how far back they had to go. So working with our medical advisor committee on all that stuff. I mean, I really feel like the last 18 months have been, I've probably aged 15 years.
I knew you had. You earned your money. You definitely earned your money without a doubt.
And the ironic part about it is that I worked in media relations for the first 20 years of my career. And so I had transitioned into the championship role and the SWA role in January of 2020. And so my first championship I'm running is our basketball championship. We get 3 games played and then cancel it. And so I tell people, I don't ask me about my role because I don't really know because I haven't done this new role in a normal time. Right. Honestly, it's not like this. It's not like we're back to normal. I mean, and we have some crazy things going on because we have schools now we have a lot of schools in Texas, and then different places all over the country. We go from Seattle all the way almost to the 20 miles from the Mexico border, and so clearly there's different political views in these states. There's different, and because of that, different local guidelines for COVID. I mean, we had a meeting last week to try and decide what the plans were if each school would go by their local guidance. And you have, the Texas schools are like, yeah, no masks, full capacity. And then you have Seattle that's like, no, everyone in the building has to have a mask. You need to have a border around the court. And then they're saying, well, we won't feel comfortable sending our team to Texas if you're telling me you're going to have full arena and no space. So I legitimately feel like I have 100 kids and that's all I deal with. They're all my children and I'm just dealing with different spats. Mommy, she did this. Mommy, she did that. It's crazy.
So let me ask you this. We know last year was tough and we know COVID is still around, right? I would think the NC2A would come up with some guidelines, some type of uniformity for everybody. How close are they to come up with some uniformity so schools won't put the commission, put their conference office in different schools and like a bind per se?
So they released their medical guidelines for this coming year on August 4th. But we're even having problems instituting those as the bare minimum. And that's the problem too. I think that's what's been said by everybody through all of this is that the NCAA has been really lacking when it comes to having so many problems with these headphones. Big ears, I guess. Sorry.
That's all right. You can see my camera.
But the NCAA hasn't really. They give you guidelines, but they aren't mandating that schools follow them or conferences adopt them, and so it's created just a complete nightmare. I'm really struggling right here not to cuss, right, Lance? Normally what I would have said there would not be nightmare. But no, but really it's just been it's awful because everybody's working with different set of rules. And so I'm sure you guys have seen a couple of the bigger leagues have come out and said, Greg Sankey, the SEC has come out and said, look, last year we didn't have a choice. So if we couldn't play, it was unavoidable. Now you have a choice. You can get a vaccine, you can play. So if you're not playing because you don't have enough players, we're issuing a forfeit.
A forfeit.
Wow.
So we're trying to do something similar, but we're running into problems because again, going back to different regions of the country, our Texas schools aren't going to force their players to get vaccinated.
And I was going to ask you that, Hope. I was going to say, is there a possibility that if you all even tried to issue a mandate like that there could be some legal action that would be taken against the conference?
Yeah. So it's basically what we're saying is it's up to each school, right? But then we got pushback last week of, well, we wouldn't feel comfortable sending our team there. And then we're now trying to institute this whole forfeit thing. So, because the NCAA doesn't recognize forfeits. They say a conference is allowed to give a forfeit for seeding purposes only, but they won't count it as a win. So it would only be a win in our standings for seeding purposes for our tournaments, but they don't recognize. So really, there's so many layers of different issues tied to COVID.
It almost seems like to me, Hope, that some of the bigger conferences are really driving the bus. And as you can see with teams moving to different conferences, moving all over the place, what's your thought on realignment that's going on in NC2A today? Because, you have Texas and Oklahoma moving, and it's just a matter of time before some other schools move.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that news that came out late last week that now the Pac-12, ACC, Big Ten, they want to do some sort of an alliance. But to me, that it's not going to work. You can't have a conference with 40 teams. Look, I'm struggling with us right now having 13. It just seems absurd. It's so big. It's so many, but it's interesting because when all that broke about the Big 12, I just laughed because I was like, it's about time someone else is dealing with this besides us. Because I've worked at the WAC since 2008, and we've had over 30 schools.
Uh-huh.
You heard that right, 30.
I read.
So when
Wow.
people are like, oh, realignment's so rough, I'm like, yeah, welcome to my life. This is, you know, and for me, the reason that's even more challenging is because you could attest to this, Lance. I am all about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so hard because you spend all this time building relationships and then schools leave. Like when the first like schools that left, it was when we still had BCS football. And Fresno State and Nevada announced they were leaving. What people don't know is we were a day away from becoming a super conference. We were going to add BYU. We were going to take a couple other Mountain West schools. We were seriously one day away, and then it got leaked. And so then there was some scrambling, and then those schools were like, all right, we're out. It's been real.
Wow.
And I was pregnant at the time with my daughter, and I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have a job, freaking out. Like our commissioner called us in a little bit later, a couple months later, and was like, get your resumes dusted off, get ready, I'll help you however I can, but I don't know if the WAC's going to make it.
Wow.
So I used to have knee-jerk reactions to this stuff, and then as it happened again and again and again, I just kind of learned it's just part of the game.
Because you know what, Hope? When I played in the WAC, BYU was in the WAC. It was BYU, Colorado State, San Diego State, Hawaii, and some of those other schools. And that's a heck of a conference.
Yeah.
But judging from the landscape, Hope, is it almost like get into a football conference while you can, or the train is going to leave the station without you? How is football? I already know the answer, but is football driving the trains because of all the money that they make, followed by basketball?
Oh yeah, for sure it's football. And actually one of the things we're already struggling with, we just brought back football and we're playing at the FCS level, and it's still driving the train. But then, you know, you have a school like Grand Canyon, right? They have the most resources of any school in our conference. They don't have football. So what we're already starting to face is, are we a football conference or are we a basketball conference? And it depends on who you ask, right? And so then it's going to be, I already can tell you there's going to be issues in the not so distant future of what is because when we lost football in 2013, we were able in our strategic plan to just come out and say, we're a basketball conference. That's our premier sport for men and women. That's what we're going to put more money into. That's what we're going to focus on. We instituted all these different things to improve it that worked. And what's funny is those things started working. We had RPI requirements for scheduling, and we got results. We went from being, I want to say low teens or even maybe in the 20s to up. We were as high as 11 in conference RPI because we put in very specific rules. Like you had to, depending on what your RPI average over the past 3 years was, you had to schedule non-conference games. They had to fit into very specific categories. But then we started making exceptions. We eventually got enough pushback that we moved that from a rule to a guideline, which then of course nobody followed. And you can attest, the league each year after it became a guideline, it went down. And so I don't know how it'll play out, but it'll be an interesting thing for us, you know, and like I'm saying, we're at the no money level at the FCS level. So I can only imagine, you know, on those levels, like the TV contracts are absurd. Well, and I'm not trying to get off topic here, but like, I don't know if you guys all saw, obviously it was huge in the last year with the disparities between men's basketball, women's basketball.
Yeah.
So the
The
NCAA commissioned this report like this. They hired a law firm to do all this research and, you know, look into it. And they came out with results. And what they're saying is that women's basketball on its own should pull in like 81 million or something like that. If my numbers are off, forgive me, but it's somewhere in that range. Well, there are contracts for 34, but what people don't know is that contract isn't just women's basketball. ESPN has the contract for all women's sports with the NCAA. So that includes volleyball, that includes softball. So basically, the NCAA screwed themselves by signing this long deal that was undervalued. And now I think that deal goes through like 2030.
Yeah, it's a long deal. It is.
So they're like, what can they do? They're stuck in that contract. Oh, and sponsorships are part of it too. So like, they come out with this report saying all of this is undervalued, but they're stuck into this long-term TV contract. So yes, everything's driven by the money from TV and sponsorships.
So let me ask you this, Hope, because and I think this is one thing that the public doesn't really get. We know that the NCAA is a business. We're not understanding quite the business model. We understand what the conferences do a little bit, but you're giving us kind of like the information that a lot of people don't really know about. So for a conference like the WAC, how many sports do you all offer?
21. Actually, 22.
Sports.
Sorry, 22 now with football.
22 sports that you're offering now. And your schools range from what geographical regions of the country? Obviously, Chicago State is in, but they're getting ready to leave. And then you've got Gonzaga, which is in Washington. What kind of coverage is your Western Athletic Conference coverage?
Okay, so we just had this expansion this year, and we brought in some Texas schools. So we have now 6 schools in Texas, and now we're split into divisions. So that's the Southwest Division, and then we have the West Division, which humor me here. Chicago State's in the Western Division.
Okay.
But then also CLU is in the Western Division. So we go from we're in Illinois, Seattle, or Washington State, California, Arizona, Utah. Yeah, that's it. And then Texas. So the Western half. And if you look at a map, it sounds funny when I'm saying Chicago State, but Chicago State, part of the expansion was Chicago State leaving the WAC. So, and the reasoning was for how far away they are, like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in. So really, CLU kind of is it's an outlier up there because everywhere else, if you look across the map, is across at least the same, like this part map. They're all and it's pretty far from west, but we're still all in the same area there. But so it's weird too because we have an uneven number in our. So one division has 7, one has 6, and like for scheduling, that's a complete and utter nightmare.
Yeah.
How do you do it? That's like when I'm talking about the hours I've spent in the last few months. We added those schools. We announced it in January. They weren't supposed to come in until 2022, but their current conference was like, "Oh, you're leaving? Peace out. You're leaving now. Like you're not staying in our conference for another year."
They got kicked out, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so instead of us having 18 months to prepare, we had 6. And so, and we're in the middle of playing all of our sports for the year into one chunk of time in the last spring. So we had, I don't know how my husband's still with me after this past year because all I did, it was nonstop. But so we had to come up with scheduling. How are you going to do scheduling? And then the Texas schools, part of their agreement to join was that they weren't going to have to travel or play outside of their division, outside of basketball because of cost. So then what do? You have a division with 7 teams. You have a division with 6. You just have them play a different number of matches, or do you try to make it even? Like, so it's, we're spread out all over, and we have a whole different set of challenges now than we did a year ago.
That's why I hope with the job that you guys do, I think it was good to have you on, because now at least like Jason was saying, some people understand the stuff that you go through each and every day, and it's not easy. And as a senior women's administrator, because we have a lot of young ladies that watch the show often too, what goes into that being a senior women's administrator, right? You're in charge of all female sports. Are you fighting for gender equity like we talked about? Because when we looked at the NC2A tournament, right, we saw what the men were getting versus what the women was getting.
Especially in terms of equipment.
Especially in terms of equipment. So do you champion those fights for the schools and the conferences or what?
Okay, so me personally, yes. So that's I mean, I have a 10-year-old daughter, And I'll tell you, whenever that first came out, you want to know what her first comment was? When I was
What
like,
was
yeah,
that?
look at this. She said, Mommy, it's not just in sports, it's in everything. She's 10. She's 10. And so for me, obviously, that's a focus. But really, I think what's not understood about the senior women administrator, it's not a title, it's a designation. And
Okay.
you know, I'm gonna pull out my soapbox here and kind of go off. It was created because there were no females in sports. There were no women in leadership positions. So the
I never
whole
knew that.
yeah, so the whole reason it was created was to encourage women to get into leadership positions in sports. It's mandated, so each school has to have someone. So it's not being the SWA has nothing to do with what you like your job responsibilities, because anyone can be the SWA. We actually have some schools where it's a trainer, it's an athletic trainer that's the SWA. Obviously,
Okay.
yeah. Obviously, in that case, that's because they're doing what they have to do to check a box to the NCAA, but it's not because they're genuinely trying. Because clearly, a trainer isn't in administration. And how available can they be if they're out, you know, giving somebody a treatment? Like, they're not going to be available to. So it's sad to me that it's 2021 and we still have to have that. But I can tell you, it's 100% still needed. There's so many people still, which is crazy to me, in Division I athletics, that if they didn't have to have females, they wouldn't. They, you know,
Wow.
so really me being the SWAT is nothing to do with my responsibilities, but I will say all of those things you mentioned. I mean, I'm a very outspoken person and I'm very passionate about things, probably to a fault. And so gender equity is huge for me. There's plenty of other things that are huge for me, but really aren't part of my job title or job responsibilities. I just do those things because I'm passionate about them.
Gotcha. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're being joined by Hope Schuler. She is the Associate Commissioner and the Senior Women Administrator for the Western Athletic Conference, and she's joined us today to talk. We've talked a lot about realignment. We've talked about where these schools are and the traveling costs that the schools are having to incur, and her trying to plan tournaments that are getting canceled and reorganized and all that good stuff. Hope, do you see in the future perhaps that, I'm not going to say the conferences are going to go away, but what I'm kind of seeing and I'm a little afraid of is that we're going to see less conferences, and we are going to start seeing these large conferences with 20, 25 teams, and we may only have 7 or 8 conferences across the entire country. Is there a possibility that we could see that? And if so, what would that mean for a lot of schools who we know damn well don't have the budget to be in these big conferences like this?
See, and I think what your last point right there is why I don't know that I don't think we'll ever get down to 7 or 8. What I think is way more feasible or more plausible that will happen is that the Power 5, the A5, they'll pull apart and start their own. So like we have Division 1, 2, 3 now, that it will basically be another division that's the Power 5 schools, because they already control. I think what people don't realize is they already control so much. So the way the governance works in the NCAA is schools have votes, conferences have votes, but what people don't realize is that the Power 5's votes are weighted. So you have, I'm sure you see things that come out that talk about like the Division I council. It's made up of you have to have a certain number of representatives from Division I, no football, Division I, FCS football, Division I, FBS. Well, the votes are weighted. So if you're FBS, your vote counts for more. So they've already said, like, the NCAA has already said that those conferences matter more to them. And there's definite talk of them breaking away because they're unhappy with a whole bunch of different things that are going on. And really, the NCAA just announced, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago, they're restructuring and going to change how they do things. And I think it's their last ditch effort to prevent the Power 5s from separating.
But
I think because like they talk about, if you look at the college football playoff, people talk about how much, I mean, not historically, but I'll say at least within the last 5 or 6 years, it's run so much better. It's run in a way that makes sense. And everyone says, and you want to know why? Because it's not tied to the NCAA. And so that's what, if you talk to anyone from the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, they're all going to say that they despise the NCAA. And it's kind of funny because they are already kind of controlling the NCAA. So it's ironic to me. But I do think, you know, Lance, you alluded to it about all those schools that make up the Mountain West. They used to be WAC schools. So in 1998, the WAC announced it was expanding, and it was going to be the first ever super conference, 16 teams. Well, it ended up breaking apart before that ever happened because there was a chunk of schools that left to form the Mountain West that were like, no, we don't want that many. Plus, if you're a conference that's a one bid league, meaning the only team that represents you in the NCAA tournament is your team that gets the automatic qualifier for your conference, adding more schools isn't a good thing because that's just more people competing for that one spot. So,
yeah.
But if you look at the Power 5 conferences, you know, there's times you got 9 SEC teams in the NCAA tournament. Well, they don't need that AQ, but conferences like the WAC, that's it. That's our team. That's our one team. The last time the WAC sent 2 teams to the men's basketball tournament was 2008. So we're a one bid league. We need that automatic qualification. And the reality is that's why the Power 5s are pissed, because you look at a WAC school, and I'm not like I said, I'm a straight shooter. I'm not being disrespectful, but if you look at a WAC school and we send our best team, our team that wins the tournament is 132 in the net or the RPI. Every single SEC school is probably higher than that, or every single ACC. So for them, like, why is this one team taking away a spot that we could have that we deserve? So I think I don't know that we're going to get down to like 8 conferences just for what I said, but I do think there's a real possibility that they split off, and then we're basically like Division I, and then we're the have-nots.
Gotcha.
Women are like the other division.
Lance has got one final question for you, Hope.
Just talk about name, image, and likeness a little bit, Hope, right? I think the Power 5 conference, a lot of people think they're going to control name, image, and likeness too. And I do think conferences like the WAC and the other schools, there's the piece of the pie for athletes to get a part of that too. What's your thoughts on name, image, and likeness? Do you think it was overdue, or do you think it's good for like the general student athlete to be able to at least get some revenue for themselves?
Oh, I think it's 100%. It's funny, if you would have asked me 25 years ago. So I went to college. I had an offer for a half scholarship to play soccer or a full scholarship for academics. And I took the full scholarship because I'm not dumb. I knew there was no way anything in soccer was going to take me any further.
There you go, Hope.
Yeah, Jason, Hope was like summa cum laude or something like that.
I was. And so I, like, if you would have asked me then, I would get so angry. Like, these college athletes, what else do they want? They're getting their whole school paid for. They're getting to travel all over. And then you come work in sports and obviously have a whole different view. And you, like, anytime you know the money part of it, and I don't know how anyone with a conscience couldn't say, like, the university is making not at our level, but Power 5s, the university is making millions of dollars on some of these people that they deserve it. And then the way I feel like it should trickle down to our level, because in Las Cruces, New Mexico, if there's a car dealership that wants to be a sponsor or wants to have, you know, whatever player is the star that year for Christians, you know, have that player be there, like the voice or the face of that. They should be allowed to do that. There's absolutely you can't give me any rational reason why they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I think it's crazy too, though, if you look at, like, you know, some of the ones that right away signed deals. Like, one of the biggest ones right away was a pair of twin basketball players, women's basketball players from Fresno State, right? And so it's like that. I think that in and of itself tells you there's a market out there. And if someone's a hustler and they want to go get that done, let them. Honestly.
I agree. Hey, this is America, Hope. So, I'm all about people being able to get their money. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today and talking a lot about this. And we definitely want to have you back again in the future because there's so much stuff going on, man. And, there's so many changes taking place in the college sports landscape. And we're going to reach out to get to Kevin Warren because we know he's right here in the Chicago area, the commissioner of the Big Ten. And just for him being an African-American male, at that level in the Power Five, I definitely want to get Kevin on our show to talk to our viewers as well. So, but thank you so much for telling us what it's like out there at the WAC, and best of luck to you, and best of luck to the conference. And you take care, all right?
Thank you. All right. And
hey,
Lance.
Hello.
I was just gonna say, Everly said to tell Uncle Ice Cream. She said hello.
All right. Sounds good. Hope Shula, everybody. You're watching What's Up, Cuz. We're going to take a commercial break, and then we're coming back with our second guest because it is time for some fantasy football talk and a little hockey talk here in the summertime. Phil Thompson is coming up.
And maybe I could get onto another computer, cuz. How about that?
Oh, God, don't risk it. You're watching What's Up, Cuz. We'll be right back.
You see me.
You hear me.
Respect me.
Respect. Due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others.
We don't have to agree, but I deserve to be heard. I stand my ground. Respect me.
We don't have to be friends, but I deserve your civility. I stand my ground. Respect me.
You don't have to understand my culture, but I deserve to be authentically myself. I stand my ground. Respect me.
I stand in defiance of your need to make me less in order for you to feel adequate.
I stand
aware that the America that you see and love today is a result of my free labor.
I stand knowing that the contempt you have for me was not instigated by me, but perpetuated by the fear you have of me. I
stand surviving your many attempts to emasculate me. Indeed, I thrive despite it.
I stand realizing that you take many things from me, but I will not allow you to take my respect.
I am a man.
I am a proud man.
I am a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputedly, unapologetically a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputedly, unapologetically a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputably, unapologetically a proud black man.
Respect me. I have done more than enough to deserve it, and still you withhold it.
The bill is past due.
You owe me.
Respect me. Respect me.
Respect me.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, the coach himself, Lance C. Irvin. And Cuz had a little bit of technical difficulties getting on earlier in the show, but he is here. And don't forget, later on in the show, we have our jump ball segment, which is going to be coming up. We got a jump ball question for you. and a lot of other topics that we're going to discuss. Some things that we didn't talk about in the first part of the show, but me and Irvin chopped up the Bears and Justin Fields a little bit. We're going to get Lance's take on that. But for now, let's get ready to bring our second guest. This is his second time on the show, so he is a repeat offender for coming on this show. Oh my God, his second time coming on here. He didn't get enough the first time, but we're so happy he decided to come back. He is the Chicago Blackhawks beat writer for the Chicago Tribune. He also covers fantasy football, which has just exploded in the last 10 to 15 years. They had to assign somebody to talk about fantasy football. And so I said, hey, man, it's football season. Let's get this guy on the show. We have not done a show on fantasy football in our history. So this will be a first for us, Lance. Let's bring him on. Our guy, Phil Thompson, is here. Phil, what's up, brother?
Hey, thanks, guys. Let me start off by saying whatever Lance says is right.
Oh, God, don't say that.
Hey, Phil, it's good to have you on, Phil. I'm happy to have you on. And when Cuz told me about fantasy football, I was like, what? I've been wanting to learn how to play. So I'm glad you're on. You're going to help me pick my team. You don't know it yet, but you're going to help me pick my team.
Oh, hey, I'm here. Hey, let's do a league. I'm dead serious about this.
Okay, here we go.
Because you don't want this smoke.
Ooh, Jason,
well, see, he gonna take advantage of you, Lance, because you don't know how to play. You're gonna be drafting a kicker in the second round and doing dumb stuff.
Hey, Jay, I
won't let my man go out like that.
I'm taking a guy like Tariq Hill or somebody with my first.
There you go. Okay,
all right.
Smart. That's
well, hey, let's get into this.
All right.
Phil, I guess my first couple of questions is, are you shocked at that now? I've been in the media since 99, and that now here in 2021, they're actually assigning a reporter at a major newspaper to cover and just talk about fantasy football. And we're starting to see fantasy football is just its own industry now. Just talk a little bit about the growth of it.
No, absolutely. There have been a lot of newspapers that, we may not just cover one thing, but people are signing people to talk about this trend. It kind of goes hand in hand with the NFL coverage because, a lot of people are either playing DFS or they're playing standard leagues or they're betting. I mean, that's a big component of why people are watching the NFL. And, it's kind of like the dirty secret, but it's out of the closet, so to speak. Everybody's accepting it.
And so to that end, I haven't played in a couple of years because I found myself sometimes pulling against the Bears because I needed a person on my fantasy team to rack up some stats so I could win. And then the other problem with it is that you'll say, I'm so busy trying to keep up with what's going on Sundays. I'm not paying attention to my wife. I'm not talking to my friends. I'm constantly looking at my phones. I'm looking at the TV. There were times the game was on. I wasn't even watching the game. I was just watching the damn ticker at the bottom trying to see what my fantasy players were doing. How do people balance that out, Phil?
Hey, there's nothing you can do about that. I'm guilty of that all the time, of being sometimes as much into the statistics as I am the game. I mean, I think over time you learn to compartmentalize. You appreciate certain plays and certain teams just for the football of it. But I'm not going to lie to you. If you are, there's something in the back of your mind, especially now with these apps, if you're not seeing notifications that your people are scoring, you start getting agitated. It's kind of like a little fix that you need to start seeing these notifications. Well, oh, so-and-so scored, or you're going to have a bad Sunday.
Hey, Phil, so let me ask you this. So with a novice like me, somebody getting started, explain so I get like 22 picks, or how does it go? I pick my 11 on offense, they get my 11 on defense. Like, how does it go?
Yeah, let me break it down real quick. So fantasy, you're just taking certain select positions like quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Some people play kickers and the defense collectively. not just single. Although there are leagues that do individual defensive players, but for the most part, people do the defense collectively. So their yards, their touchdowns, certain other statistics translate into points. So if they get, let's say 50 yards rushing, a lot of leagues that equates to 5 points, breaking it down, a point every 10 yards. If they score a touchdown, it might be 6 for running backs and 4 for quarterbacks because they try to devalue the number of passing touchdowns. So, there's a correlation between their on-field production and your fantasy points.
Got you. So if I pick somebody like Ezekiel Elliott,
yes,
he ran for like 150 with 2 touchdowns. So I'm looking at a bunch of points, right? So the goal is to get the start, but then you guess like a rookie or somebody that might not have such a name, and then pick them, and hopefully they blow up, and then I beat Jason Butt.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You're going to get guys, and I think I'm just kind of breaking down that scenario that you just said. So that would probably be 12 points for Ezekiel's 2 touchdowns, unless you're talking about a bonus for long touchdowns. And then you're probably talking about 15 if you're doing 10 yards per point. So for that 15 points for that 150 yards, so that would be what 27. I'm bad at math, but that's why I have an app.
So let me ask you this: for a guy like, I think the young fella name is Ogletree that plays for the Bears. Yeah, he had a great game. So I think he had a great game. So if I would have picked a young fella like that, I probably would have got some points. But who on the Bears do you think is a good pick for a fantasy team?
Well, first let me say, Ogletree wouldn't be a fantasy player unless you're in one of those leagues that.
Right. We lost Phil for a minute. See, man, we started talking about the Bears, and look what happened. You made us lose Phil, man.
I'm representing the Bears today, cuz. You see my Bears shirt, matter of fact.
Oh my God! You knocked Phil off the air. There he is.
Sorry about that, guys.
Lance and them dumb questions knocked you off the air.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened, but let me just say to answer your Bears question, I would think Justin Fields would be a good player to have, especially because he has that rushing yardage. That's a possibility. But the guy you would draft first would be David Montgomery. Some people might even say Allen Robinson. It just depends on the scoring in your league.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, the key to all this is what Matt Nagy do, because if he don't give David Montgomery the ball, or if he been giving him the ball, he been giving him the past 2 seasons, Montgomery will hurt you. But yeah, he's definitely a talented player. So let's talk a little bit about some of the strategies involved in fantasy football and some of the individual players out there. I know that's what a lot of our viewers want to know. So obviously the premier positions in fantasy football for the most part are going to be your quarterback, your running back, your wide receiver, tight end, that type of stuff. Yes. Taking a look at this year's NFL, who do you see as the top quarterbacks and the top running backs?
So top quarterbacks are, they're a tier by themselves, would be Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, just because of that consistency. And, that you want those guys that can just go off that 1 week or, a few weeks. And Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes certainly have that capability. They can get you the rushing touchdowns. They can get you like sometimes 2, 3, maybe even 4 touchdowns in a game. And that's what you're looking for. As far as running backs, you like those running backs that receive as well as run. But points are points. You don't care if they just come strictly on the ground or through the air. So some of your top running backs are going to be Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara. And then as far as receivers, I see there's a tier all by themselves with Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Maybe you can make an argument that Stephon Diggs joins that group, but you're talking about some bad men right there.
What about Julius Jones now that he's out of Atlanta?
Oh yeah, Julio is.
I'm sorry, Julio.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Julio is going to be playing second fiddle though. He's a good guy if you can get him at a good value, maybe like 4th or 5th round. But AJ Brown is going to be the main man in Tennessee. and let me say this too. There's a premium on tight ends a lot of times if you're talking strategy. Some leagues require that you play a tight end. It's a very scarce position because there's not a lot of guys that are good at it. After a big three of Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, and I would say George Kittle from San
Francisco.
Yeah, there's a drop off. Maybe you can make an argument for a couple of guys, but for the most part, those are the three that you're looking at. So to me, if I don't get one of the big three, I'm going to wait a little bit because I think there are some sleepers this year that you can target, like Adam Trotman, maybe even a Tyler Higbee. I think he might be in a good position playing with Matt Stafford this year.
But also too, Phil, you have to have like a budget, so you have to be able to budget for the team also. So that's when the stuff becomes interesting, correct?
Well, yeah, for those leagues that have a salary cap. So yeah, some people call it fab. Some people just call it, salary cap, however you term it. There are a lot of leagues where, you can go and try to get Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott, but you're going to have to pay, which gives you less money to spend on your wide receiver or quarterback. So there's a balancing act. You got to play armchair, backyard general manager to kind of figure that out. Otherwise, you're just doing a straight draft, and then you're trying to figure out how can you get the best value in each round. And especially you win your league by getting those gems in the late rounds, like I did last year with Antonio Gibson.
Gotcha. Going back to the tight ends just really quick. I'm sorry, Lance. Just going back real quick. Because there's such a scarcity of them, and there could be some value, depends on the league that you're in and what a tight end does. Should that be one of your higher picks as opposed to one of your lower picks?
Good point.
Yes. As long as you don't reach for it. Okay. See, let me make this point. If you want to get a guy like TJ Hawkinson, you got to look at what you're sacrificing. At the end of the day, is Hawkinson going to be more valuable at his position than CD Lamb? Now you gotta figure out, is CD Lamb going to be that guy by the end of the year? That guy in Dallas. It's stuff like that. Now, if you're talking about him versus Chase Claypool or Juju Smith-Schuster, then yeah, absolutely, you take a guy like Hawkinson. But you got to look at their situation. Hawkinson could have all the talent in the world, but how much do you trust Jared Goff? How much do you trust that new regime in Detroit? I'm real talk. This is what you got to look at. You can't just look at the player. You got to look at their situation, and not feel a little some kind of way about Detroit this year.
So Phil, if I'm looking at quarterback, we have Matt Jones in New England and Cam Newton, and I hope Cam Newton starts. But if I pick somebody like Matt Jones, he comes out the blue, I probably could get a lot of points out of him in that type of offense. Any thoughts?
Yeah, you could. It's what you consider a lot of points. Now you can probably get Mac Jones really cheap or at a really low round. You're absolutely right. You're probably not going to get the kind of yardage, like rushing yardage that Cam would bring.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but that's fine if he's like your second quarterback, or if you're, you just need a guy that can give you a nice floor, hold steady. He might be that guy because he's going to have, if they stay healthy, he's going to have two pretty good tight ends to throw it in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry.
Jason, so don't pick Matt Jones, Jason.
I wasn't going to pick Matt Jones. I wasn't going to pick Matt Jones, so thank you. But thank you for telling me that.
If he's your third guy or if he's a streamer, I don't see. The great thing is there's a thing called a waiver wire. If a guy is not going to work out, you can pick up a replacement.
So let me ask you this, Phil. What, in your opinion, is the optimal league in terms of number of people in a league? Because I've seen leagues, there's a certain number. Obviously, if you got 5 people in the league, that ain't enough because everybody gonna have a superstar. But if you got 30 people in the league, you know, how are we gonna go after the first couple rounds? You know, people picking people they don't even know about. In your opinion, what is the optimal number of people that should be in the league?
Either 10 or 12 to me. 10 or 12. I've been in 14. I've even been in a 16-team league. That's kind of getting ridiculous. I mean, you can do that to challenge yourself. If you really know the league and you know, oh, I can find, you know, the number 3 wide receiver that's going to go off for the Rams or for the Cincinnati Bengals, and knock yourself out.
Okay. Because now the other thing is, you know, the fantasy football thing has gotten so big. It's gotten so big that I was actually invited to one time a fantasy football league draft party because now these are the big rage now. My neighbor, last year during COVID, I was doing a walk with my wife and we would get our exercise during COVID. And I go by my neighbor, his garage door is open and he's got lawn chairs out in his driveway, all separated 6 feet apart. And I see everybody sitting in their chair looking in the garage. I'm like, what is going on? He's got a big movie screen up and they're all doing their fantasy league draft.
Yeah.
So, you know, he had food. He invited me for a beer. I mean, it was like crazy. It's like that, Lance. So talk a little bit about just the social elements that surround fantasy football.
You know, truth be told, that's how it used to be before people were doing most of this online. You know, people would get together. That was one of the best attributes. And, you know, I've actually have done that. The most recent draft party I went to was actually a fantasy basketball draft, believe it or not. But, you know, that's part of the culture. In fact, it reminds me, Jason, of a commercial that they used to have. I can't even remember the product, but they had a guy picking up TJ Houshmandzadeh from the Bengals, and he messed up the name and called him Hashimazali or something like that. It's a joke. Do you remember that commercial?
I do.
Yeah. He said something like nailed it or something, or championship. That was it. He said Hashimazali, championship. That's fantasy football. You know, they're capturing, you know, the essence of why people do this to, you know, my favorite league is the one that I know everybody in, and when I destroy them, you know, it gives me an extra sense of satisfaction. And yes, I'm, you know, an abysmal winner as much as I am a sore loser, and I like to rub it in people's faces, and I like when they come from me.
There you go. There you go.
Me. Yeah, they give me the business.
So Phil, you know, some people say that some of us like a little money. Are there leagues where I can play or people can play where you can win a nice amount of money when you play? Like is there a national league or a league where you get like 50,000 if you win, or some of those type deals?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wouldn't be a private league unless you're playing with like Jay-Z or something like that. But yeah, there are leagues that have like different prize amounts, but you got to buy into those. There'll be a hefty price tag to buy in. But yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of people play what's called daily fantasy football, DFS, for the chance. You know, you have that 1 week that you're trying to play and win big prize money, if you're willing to put up money.
So things like DraftKings,
daily fantasy.
That's fantasy league. So DraftKings, what's the difference between DraftKings and some of the other?
Yeah, so DraftKings and FanDuel is exactly what we're talking about, DFS or daily fantasy football, where you're picking a lineup for that week. You know, you do your research and you try to figure out who's going to hit that week. Then you put up a little money or a lot of money, and then try to be the big winner. There are people that make their living off this because
they are.
Yeah, they just know this so well, and they're basically hoping for guys like us to pony up our money to basically fund them. It pretty much was. I mean, people have done statistics that show like the obscene percentage that these sharks win these daily fantasy leagues. Now, don't come after me, all the DFS people, and say, "Hey, you're ruining our business model." I'm not. I'm just a messenger. Don't come from me.
Right.
But then you have what's called standard leagues, which, you usually just play with your friends, or you're playing free Yahoo leagues, or playing with your coworkers. That's a fun way to get to know your coworkers too. You're just picking players, or it's auto picked for you, and you just play throughout the season and see if you can win.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're being joined by Phil Thompson here at the Chicago Tribune. We're talking a little fantasy football right now. What's up, cuz? Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I'd rather do something like DraftKings and FanDuel, because I like talking stuff to people, Phil. So you and I need to get together after the show. We need to do a little something, because I'm a good winner and I'm a bad loser. I like talking to people. So, Phil, if you had one pick to start your team, who would that one, I'll call it horse, who would that horse be?
Well, the consensus is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey. Assuming that he's healthy.
Over Mahomes.
Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Well, here's the thing. It's called position scarcity. So running backs fall off fast.
Yeah.
And everybody in leagues, like a lot of leagues, you're playing one quarterback every week.
Yeah.
You're playing at least 2 running backs. And there may be 12 ones that you feel really solid to go across 10 teams. So you can see that's going to go real fast. Those running backs will go real fast.
It is. And so talk a little bit about the one thing, and this is another reason why I like fantasy football. I just think it's absolutely hilarious. So you go through it, you do all this research, you got algorithms and apps and all this stuff going on. You got your team all set up, you're ready to go. Your running back gets out there in the first quarter, he twists his ankle and is out of the game. and you cannot sub him because it's already started. It's the cruel part of fantasy football. Talk a little bit about what do you do in those situations when one of your players is you now know is going to be out for 5 or 6 weeks, and the importance of those late round picks of being able to fill in when your guy is injured or if they have a bye week.
First of all, you cry only like a grown man can cry. That's what you do when that happens. Let me tell you, quick side note. I probably tell this story too much. You talk about playing a player and then having him go out. I had Maurice Jones-Drew one year when I think it was his rookie year, and I had a lot of running back depth, so I decided to trade him, and I traded him for Plaxico Burress, who was at the top of the wide receiver game at the time. 2 weeks after I traded for Plaxico, he shoots himself in the leg in the nightclub. And the rest of the season, Maurice Jones-Drew went off all during the rest of the fantasy playoffs. So you talk about hurt. It's still with me to this day. So with that said, that's why it's important to have depth. So you're not in a position where you feel like you have to make a trade to address one position. But what I will say is I always say the easiest position to fix is wide receiver, because there's so many guys that can go off one week. A lot of teams are using 3 receiver sets. So it's easier to find somebody off the waiver wire that can help you and be a viable flex option than it is finding a good running back or a good tight end.
Without a doubt. And, I guess our final question on this subject, because we're going to talk Blackhawks after the commercial, but the trades. I think one of the best parts about fantasy leagues is you get to be the GM if you can trade. But you get in a lot of these leagues and people don't really want to trade with you. Or if they do want to trade, they're trying to just completely ream you. Yes. What is the key to trades? Obviously, you just told us your story on Plaxico. You didn't know the man was going to shoot himself. So you're looking for trade value of players and a trade partner. What's the best way of going about doing that to get people to be open to a trade?
What I would say is try to find someone who is like-minded. And this this is across all leagues. I've done baseball and basketball, and you always have that guy that wants to just sell you his junk for your premium player, and you think, what's going on in your head, man?
A guy like Jason Palmer.
Oh, wow. Calling you out. Wow. We'll see. We'll see. One thing that I try to do is I honestly try to look at what helps me and what helps that person. And that way I can see, number one, if we're a match. Number two, I can logically explain to you why this trade works for you. So it's not just thinking about myself and how I'm going to benefit. I'm explaining to you how you benefit also. And I think that helps grease the wheels for making a trade.
Phil, you're a nice guy. You're a nice guy, because most people like Jason thinking about their damn self.
Oh, no, not my man. No.
Hey, Phil, I traded you Jake Arrieta for Lance Lynn.
Lord. I'll trade you Jake Arrieta for Jeremy Lin. How about that?
I know, that's right. Hey, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then coming back on What's Up, Cuz. Phil's going to come back for a few minutes because we got to talk about some Blackhawk stuff. So just stay tuned, everybody. Phil Thompson, he's coming back. We're going to talk a little bit of hockey. You're watching What's Up, Cuz.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans, and soon they will be available to everyone.
This vaccine means hope. It will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
I want to go back to work, and I want to be able to move around.
To visit with Michelle's mom, to hug her and see her on her birthday.
You know what I'm really looking forward to is going to opening day in Texas Ranger Stadium with a full stadium.
We've lost enough people, and we've suffered enough damage.
In order to get rid of this pandemic, it's important for our fellow citizens to get vaccinated.
I'm getting vaccinated because we want this pandemic to end as soon as possible.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
So roll up your sleeve and do your part.
This is our shot.
Now it's up to you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer. My cousin Lance Irvin, and our guest tonight is Phil Thompson. Once again, a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. It'll give you access to all of our great shows like Sean and Maya in the mornings. They're on 3 days a week. Our guys at the Humidor Sports Zone, they come out on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Central. And don't forget my guy, Jamar Hart. So we got so many good shows here on the network. Go ahead and download that app so you'll have access to them. Phil, we need to talk some hockey.
Okay.
There's been so much going on this summer with Chicago teams. It's really a good time to be a Chicago fan. The Bulls have made a big splash. The White Sox doing their thing. The Bears, everybody excited with Justin Fields, and now they got started. And even the Cubs are a big story, that they had to break up their team. That's been a huge story. There's been so much going on that the Blackhawks have kind of slipped under the radar a little bit, but the Blackhawks have made a lot of moves. And they made one today as well. Can you tell me a little bit about what they did today as well?
Oh, yeah. They agreed to terms with Alex Nylander, their left winger that they've been trying to get on track to see if they can maximize his potential once upon a time, he was the 8th overall pick by the Buffalo Sabres. A lot of times these guys just need a few years or a change of scenery to get on track. And they're seeing if he can be an offensive force. He's had spurts. He's had camps where he's shown flashes that he could be, if not a superstar, at least a potential star. He's had different lineups with guys like Patrick Kane and what have you, where it looks like he could achieve, but either he can stay healthy or he can just stick in the lineup. So they're going to give him a trial and see, and it benefits him, to have a 1-year deal too, to see, if he can maximize his value in the market.
So I think that's big, to have a right-handed shot on that wing as well. You don't want to load up with too many lefties. It's good to have a nice balance. Talk a little bit about some of the other moves that the Blackhawks have made. Two of the big moves is that they got Marc-Andre Fleury in a trade. So he's definitely going to be kind of number one goalie. And I was kind of shocked by that. I thought they were kind of sold on Lankinen, what they had with him last year. And I was really shocked they went out and got Fleury. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, to be fair, Bowman is Stan Bowman, the GM and president of hockey operations for the Blackhawks, has said that, we've had this youth movement, but don't get sold on just these young players. At some point, we're going to have to bring in some veterans. Now, probably a lot of us thought, maybe he might bring a veteran or two, and then 2 years from now, really go for it. But he saw some opportunities at, not much of a cost. You can debate whether Seth Jones was worth the cost. But, they brought this brother in and his little brother, Caleb Jones, and, to help shore up the defense. That's one thing they needed. And Marc-Andre Fleury is the other aspect of that. Lankinen was great for a guy that was playing his first year, and he played, kind of above his head. But they still finished, I think, 8th from the bottom in goals against per game. So, Duncan Keith wasn't getting any younger, and they didn't have a lot outside of him and Connor Murphy and Calvin DeHaan. You can make your arguments about Zadorov. I thought he was a liability in some areas,
and I loved him.
His own. Yeah. Don't. Hey, look. Believe me, people go off about Nikita Zadorov, but the thing is, you bring in a guy like Seth Jones, you bring in McCabe, you immediately, bolster your defense, especially when you add them to somebody like Murphy, and then you got guys like Wyatt Kalnick that you're trying to bring along, and same with Ian Mitchell. One of those young guys you're hoping takes a step forward. You need to shore up that defense, and the other component of that is Fleury.
Hey, but when you bring in a guy like Fleury, right, he's 37 years old, correct? So I think they really, Jay, I think it's a good mixture bringing somebody in that's a little bit more of a veteran, right? That's the one position I was going back and forth with. Do you bring in a veteran and maybe stabilize them a little bit more? I don't know, because I thought he was okay with the Las Vegas Knights, if you ask me. So I wasn't really too much shocked about that. I thought Lanigan played well, Jay, kind of like you said, though. But I like the move, to be totally honest. Now, a little bit more than I do.
Well, I like it, too, because I think, goaltenders, you don't cater so much on their age. A lot of them will play until their late 30s. It's not like he's out there as a forward trying to skate around with a 19-year-old. So, for a goalie, I'm like, okay, and he is Marc-Andre Fleury, for the love of God. So I'm cool with that. So I agree with you on that, Lance.
But no, absolutely. But Jason, I'm sorry. Let me just ask you guys this. I'm curious if you think making moves like this are premature for where the Blackhawks are in their development in terms of being cup contender. Like you bringing in a big gun like Fleury, making that big deal, $9 million a year for Seth Jones. What do you think?
I have a theory on that, which I was going to get to you kind of a little bit later on why I think they did that. but I will let Lance answer. Lance, you go ahead. Because basically we were all told that the Blackhawks are rebuilding. And then all of a sudden they started going out and getting, all-star players and future Hall of Famers. And I'm like, well, I guess we ain't rebuilding. Lance, what you think about that? You a coach.
That's what I was saying. I said, now, are they getting pressure from some of the other teams around here to like, no, you can't have a total rebuild. You need to pick it up while it's good. Because like you said, Jay, I was giving the Cubs a hard time, but the Cubs picked up a bunch of young pieces where in a couple of years from now, they could be very good. But if you're the Blackhawks, looking at what the Bulls are doing and looking at the Sox are doing, you almost have to step your game up. And with the pieces that they picked up, they have a chance. But my whole thing is this: are you rebuilding or aren't you? And I think they said, Jay, scrap the rebuild. Let's see what we can do now.
Let me jump on this. Number one, Bowman would, because we've asked him about this, he would say it's not scrapping the rebuild, but fast forwarding the rebuild. You see?
That's good use of words by Stan Bowman.
Yeah. The other thing is, think about this, and this is just pure speculation. Have not had an opportunity, us reporters to talk to Jonathan Taves or Patrick Kane. But there is the thought that, with they're coming near the end of their contracts, that you need to push the pedal a little bit while they're still under contract, while they're still, at least relatively in their prime, to see if you can make a go at it. Be a little more competitive to see where you stand, because they're going to have to be decisions made about whether you want to extend them or whether you need to just kind of tear the house down and build around guys like Seth Jones, maybe like Lucas Reichel or whoever they decide to feature. Like, okay, we're going to keep Jones, Doc, Reichel, DeBrincat, and build around that.
Hey, Phil, let me ask you this. They gonna extend one of those guys. Taves, Kane. I mean, don't you think, Jay, kind of like the Kobe Bryant syndrome?
I would hope they would. I would hope they would. I personally would like to see Kane and Taves retire as Blackhawks.
Yes.
But I don't know if that can happen. I mean, Duncan Keith, they had to do what they had to do. Corey Crawford retired, thank God. I was scared for the man's health because of the concussions. Brent Seabrook, they had to do what they needed to do with them. I think all those guys are going to have their jerseys, their sweaters retired, their numbers retired, and probably a big statue of them as a group, along with Marion Hossa. Let me say this. So going back to what you asked me, Phil, I like the answer you just gave about them fast forward and how I never thought about maybe they did talk to Taves and Kane and say, look, we're going to give you guys a chance to get some more because of what you've done for the organization. I'd love to be that optimistic and say that was why they did it. But I'm more sinister than that. I'm an investigative reporter. So I got to look at the deep stuff.
Of course you are.
I think they did this because of the scandal that is going on within the organization. And they said, the hell with this. We got to get these people some attention so that they're not asking us questions about this huge scandal. So let's just go ahead and go for it. So maybe they'll say, hey, the hockey is going to be really good. I'm sorry. I'm an investigative reporter. I gotta think differently. I think that's what this was all about, Phil.
Jason Palmer, that's what you think to get everybody.
That's what I think. I think they said they can't deal with this heat that they're getting over this scandal.
Lance, he's not the first person to float that idea. I'm going to tell you that right now. Now, I can't, in my position, I can neither confirm nor deny such a notion because I have to remain impartial about such things. But I mean, I don't think people make hockey decisions based on factors like that because you can go out of business, put yourself out of a job real fast. Letting other factors come into play because you're playing with the salary cap, you're playing with future draft picks. And these kind of news events come and go, and if you're letting that sway you, then I can't see a legitimate general manager doing something like that. But
one would hope. One
would hope. I mean, it doesn't hurt, but number one, this thing is in the courts, and unless it gets dismissed by a judge, it's going to be around. And that if you did hypothetically do something like that to kind of sway attention from a scandal, it's going to be only a short-term solution, because the court case is going to remain as long as the judge says it can remain. And if the players you bring in aren't any good, people are just going to go right back devoting their attention to the scandal. You get my meaning?
I do. Lance, go ahead. You got another question for Phil?
I got a question for both of y'all. I mean, this since we talking about the scandal, right?
Yeah.
When did they start going over coaches' houses to look at film? I thought most of the film was watched in the facility. That's what I thought. I mean, I know this happened in 2010, but I didn't know they was doing that.
Yeah, I don't know how prevalent. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how prevalent something like that is. Across any sport. I haven't heard too much of that. I mean, a lot of times I've heard of players and coaches communicating online, like especially football. If a coach sees something, they want to send a clip to that player, or load it into whatever system that they have so the player can look at it. I haven't heard a whole lot of people going over players' houses. Players going over coaches' houses.
Right, especially not at that level. And just to give everybody the background, Brad Aldridge, a former coach for the Blackhawks, has been accused of basically kind of sexual assault, I guess would be the best way to put it. Sexually assaulting some players that were within the Blackhawks organization. And there are accusations that the higher ups, including Stan Bowman, and we're not sure how far up, but that upper management of Blackhawks knew about it. And the question now is, what did they do about it, or did they do anything about it? So that's the big scandal that's going on with the Blackhawks right now. And Phil, it's gotten to the point where there was a great article done in The Athletic by Mark Lazarus and Scott Powers, where they were talking to a lot of different fans. And there are some fans who have given up their season tickets behind this scandal. So this thing has got some teeth.
Yes, it does. And I think one of the things that gives it legs, again, is it's a lawsuit. So, people can say whatever, this happened or that happened. But when it's in a court of law, that's when you start seeing the truth. Because, when you depose somebody, or if it's a criminal case and you're under oath, people don't want to risk perjury. When there's discovery, that legal process of discovery, people unearth all kind of emails and communications and documents, and that's when you find out a lot of truth. And that's one thing. Now, I will say this: I can't think of any team that will want a lawsuit against them to reach the discovery process, because sometimes it's not just the dirt in question, but it's the tangential dirt. When discovery, when they say, oh, you got to start forking over your emails and all this good stuff, that's when everything gets out. And you don't want that.
I agree. Well, it's going to be very interesting. I'm excited about the Blackhawks because of the moves they make, but the scandal has kind of got that. It's in the back of my mind, man. There's a little stank on that, man. And, I'm actually surprised they let it get this far and that they didn't just settle the thing and find out what's going on here. So, there's a lot of layers of this, especially with Stan Bowman, being in charge of USA Hockey with the Olympics getting ready to come up in February. So many different layers to this. We're going to keep an eye on it. And I know we're going to have you back as well as the season goes on, and want to talk to you too about the Olympics when that starts up as well. So just a lot that we got to talk to Phil about here in the next few months. So you'll see Phil a lot here on the show. And, Phil, I guess my final question for you is have the Blackhawks ever had 3 brothers on their roster at the same time? And, I mean, we got Malcolm Subban, we got Khalid Jones, we got Seth Jones. I mean, we're going to have a Soul Train line out there in a minute.
Can we get a black coach over there, Jay?
Hey, there's a brother, I'm blanking on his name, that does the commentary on the NHL Network.
Kevin Weeks.
Yes, thank you. I was blanking on his name. Brain freeze there, so to speak. But I mean, I didn't know if you were talking brothers or were you talking like family brothers, because you got Kurt and Colton Doc, and then you got Seth and Caleb. Seth got, so you got 2 for 1 brothers who Lance, I don't know if you know this, they're the sons of Popeye Jones.
He does know that one.
Did you know that?
I had to tell my cousin Jason that last week.
I knew that already.
I felt good he didn't know that. I told you that last week. You didn't know that.
Pay him no attention, Phil. But yes, so I mean, it's very interesting. Very interesting to see that, and I hope it gets more people from our community involved in hockey as well. I do credit the Blackhawks for a lot of community outreach and bringing the sport to our community. So
yeah, there's a lot of Black people that have been getting into hockey, and love to see more getting into fantasy football as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, hey, Phil Thompson, thank you so much, man, for joining us. Everybody check out Phil. Phil, where can they find you on social media?
I'm at @_Phil_Thompson. I know it's a terrible Twitter handle, but that's the best I could do with what was left. But yeah, just find me there, or go to one of my articles and email me. I still answer those.
But Phil, hold up, Jay. Anybody want to know about fantasy football? Call Phil's agent, Lance C. Irvin, and we charge. We charge for our advice.
Oh Lord! Please don't.
Don't go to Lance. Lance is trying to take your money.
Yes, he is. Without a doubt. Phil Thompson, everybody. Thanks so much, Phil, for joining us. Take care.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
All right. And actually, coming up in a couple of weeks, Lance, we're going to have Sonia Tinker come on our show. She is an African-American professional female hockey player. She plays in the professional league for women, and Sonia's coming on. I think she's coming on the August 30th show, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to have her on. We always try to find unique guests and people doing a lot of different stuff. So Sonia's agreed to come on our show, so we're going to have her. But, that situation with the Blackhawks is really kind of disappointed. But hey, we got about 10 minutes left. We got to get to some topics since somebody was late for work today who we ain't gonna mention. There are a couple of topics I need to talk to you about. Is that all right?
Technically, I wasn't late. I just had a malfunction, but I was trying to jump on it. But let me go ahead. What you got for your cousin? All
right, let's talk. We're gonna do these subjects really, really quick. So let's talk about the Bulls. The Bulls finished summer league play last night. Our guy Io put up 26 points and had 7 assists, I believe. Patrick Williams was not with the team, so Io became kind of a main focus. Just real quick, what did you think of the Bulls in the summer league overall, and what did you see in terms of some player development in terms of some of those players?
I thought they were solid in the summer league. If you look at a guy like Patrick Williams, right, who we talked about last year, saying he could be a main piece to the puzzle. I thought he shot the ball well from the 3-point line. His athleticism is at another level, and he handled the ball. So I was happy to see him look like he got better at those 3 things. He averaged 9 points a game during the season. He was getting about 18, 19 out there in the summer league. So I liked what I saw from him. Dotson was another kid that was a 2-way player last year that I think played well. And Io showed some promise on the defensive end. And last night, he was able to score a little bit more. He had the ball in his hands. I think the Bulls are moving in the right direction. The only thing I'm concerned about, what are they doing with Larry Marketing, and how is the inside game going to be next year?
Yeah, I think the Bulls have definitely got weapons now. I think Io can be that player when you put the ball in his hand. The problem is Zach LaVine going to have the ball in his hand. So, it's going to be very interesting to see how they work out that guard situation. especially with Kobe White too. You got a lot of people who can score in that guard position. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Bulls work that. Hey, let's stay on the subject of basketball. Let's talk about our Chicago Sky. The Chicago Sky last night, they returned to action after the Olympics, and the USA women's team won gold yet again, their 7th gold medal. The Sky returned to the court against the Seattle Storm. That game went to overtime, Lance, and then the Sky pulled it out. They get the victory over the Storm. Talk to me about the Chicago Sky.
I watched that game yesterday, Jay, and one thing to be said, it's always a premium to have a really good shooter. And Quigley showed why she's still around. She made some big threes down the stretch. Thought Copper played well. And the veteran Candace Parker came through down the stretch. And shout out to Jules Lloyd. I remember I was helping Corey one year when he played against her team. She continues to get better and better. And I know the Storm didn't have Breanna Stewart, who had a child the other day, but they still a really good team. And I think the Sky really is going to have a good chance. I know Diamond DeShield is playing this year again. It sounds like she's healthy. So I'm looking for the Sky to do very well in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, so, I mean, they started off really bad, but they also didn't have half their team. And then they went on a long streak, and it seems like they coming out and just really starting to fire on cylinders here. And I'm going to really watch a lot of their games here coming down the stretch in the regular season and definitely leading into the playoffs.
And we need to go watch, Jay. And like you said, it started off tough because you got some people playing overseas, people injured, stoppage here because of this, stoppage there because of that. So it's been a tough year. I think they're 11-10 right now.
Right.
So, hopefully they keep coming along and keep playing well.
And they got a win on Coach Wade's birthday. His birthday was yesterday. So happy birthday to our good buddy, Coach Wade.
Happy birthday,
we'll
Coach.
have some. Yeah, we'll get some of the Sky members on the show here as well here in the next couple of weeks. Next subject, let's talk. Sorry, Ivan. The Cubs are now on an 11-game losing streak after the Miami Marlins beat them down there in Miami. The Cubs are just, we kind of expected this, right?
I wanted to ask you this, Jay. If you Rossi, right? He didn't sign up for this, Jay. How you think Rossi feel? 2 11-game or more losing streaks for the first time since like 1959. He didn't sign up for that, Jay. And there's still 40 games left or something crazy? How many games left? Is it 40?
That man getting paid a lot of money, Lance. It's hard for me to have sympathy for people.
I was gonna say he sure did sign up for that. That's exactly what he.
I don't care. If you sign me to the money that man making, they can go 0-162, and I would be smiling at every press conference and doing my job. Ain't my fault they ain't winning. Pay me my money.
Jay, they have lost 41 out of their last 54.
Yeah, they're going to be bad, and it's going to be like this for a couple of seasons. For my Cubs friends who are fans, y'all about to deal with it. And I know what's making it worse is that the White Sox are going in the opposite direction. So that's just making it even worse for the Cubs fan. And me being me, of course, I'm going to rub that into the wound as much as humanly possible. I got to.
Good, too.
But they lost 11 in a row now. So, they're at this point, they're aiming to get the number 1 draft pick if I'm the Cubs. That's what I do. Thank you, Ivan. Yes.
Hey,
so
they always want to talk about the picks that they have. The farm system. I guess their farm system is like 10.
Well, no, it's not. The thing came out today and said the Cubs farm system was ranked number 24. So they're in trouble. They're in trouble. They've got a lot of work to do. That's why I said people are they're gonna bounce back real quick. No, they ain't. It's gonna be really bad for a few years. Now, talk to me in about 4 or 5 years. When some of those people you got through trades are starting to develop?
Hey, Jay, and here goes the thing you and I both know. In 4 or 5 years, it'll be a lot of movement in 4 or 5 years. Those coaches that's counting on their jobs, they'll be gone in 4 or 5 years. Because what's the first thing? Who the first people that goes when teams start?
It's going to be the coach. But, hopefully our friend Willie Harris, who we trying to get on the show, maybe Willie will be managing by then. We'll see. We got to reach out to your boy, Julie, about that. We got to try to get with him. We got to try to get Willie on the show because he is an African-American coach who's on the rise, and he may get a managerial job here in the near future. A couple more minutes. Let's talk a little bit about the Yankees in the White Sox series. The Yankees take 2 out of 3, but the game in the cornfield was incredible.
You got too happy during that game. You got happy because we came back. TA blasted one all in the cornfield. Did they ever find that ball? See, you got too happy over that one win. This the great game, best game in the year. And I was sitting there like he'd have lost his damn mind. And we lost two out of 3. But you can tell though, Jay, we had some offensive firepower.
We did. We did.
What's up with Lim Hendricks though? What's up with
I still think he's the closer. It happens to all the closers, and you were going against Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, come on, man. If you're going to give up a home run, they're the people to give up to the home run to. Now, if he giving up to the backup catcher, then I'd be concerned.
Hey, Jay, what difference do it make? You want to be the best. He's supposed to be that dude, right?
Yeah, he is.
Dudes out when we need him.
He is. He going to have to step up his game. He going to have to step up his game. And then our final subject before we get out of here, the Chicago Bears, my main team, defeated my side piece team yesterday on Saturday. My Miami Dolphins fall to the Bears. Your general thoughts on Justin Fields and what you saw from him in that first game?
I mean, I think he showed why we drafted him so high, Jay. I thought he was going to struggle a little bit, but you could tell he can run the ball. He can elude defenders, and he could put that ball in places where most quarterbacks, well, I should say most quarterbacks, he could put it in places where you could see him being special, right? I was happy for him. In this whole, rookie class, I thought Tua was pretty good, Jay. To be totally honest, I thought Matt Jones played well for the New England Patriots when I watched him. I thought Justin Love was good. So I think some of these young quarterbacks, Jay, I think they played well, but I like what Fields did. And I was sitting there happy, like, we have us a quarterback like everybody else was saying, but time will tell, though. But he showed promise, though. And I like our defense, too. I thought our defense was solid. They're getting after the quarterback now.
I agree. Well, the second preseason game is coming up this Saturday. It's also at Soldier Field, 12 o'clock kickoff. And our guy, Mitch Trubisky, is coming back to Chicago.
Hey!
Now as the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. And I was talking on Sean and Meyer earlier. He going to get booed, Lance. Let's just put it out there. You know Chicago people. We're gonna boo
Jay, is it Mitch? Was it Mitch's fault or was it the system he was in?
I'm gonna say it was both, but when you leave, Mitch shouldn't have said, "Well, I'm glad I'm in a place where they're gonna appreciate me." See, that's a bad move, Mitch.
Hey, you told your big cousin Jay. Sometimes it's best not to say nothing, even though how wrong you've been done.
I agree. Well, hey everybody, that is a wrap for tonight's edition of What's Up, Cuz. Thank you, Lance, for making it here. I know you had some technical issues, but you did not give up. You kept on coming like a true Olympian, and you are here to finish strong. So I appreciate you joining the show. I was going to get tired of talking just to myself, but okay. Thank you, Irvin, for running the board behind the scenes. Thank you to Sean Sierra and Maya Kai in Sports Zone Chicago. We will see you all next week, and we got a huge announcement. We got a live show finally coming up. We're going to make the official announcement next week of where it's going to be and who our special guest is going to be. So tune in next week to What's Up, Cuz. Nope, I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth.
Can you get Bears tickets? Get your cousin.
We are out of here. We will see you next week. Peace out, everybody.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony. to read.